After months of service overseas, Captain Elias Grayson finally earned himself a seat in first class. But what should have been a peaceful flight turns into a tense battle for dignity and survival when prejudice and secrets collide mid-air. At $30,000 feet, the cabin of the Boeing 787 buzzed with a low hum, the sound of jet engines blending with the hushed anticipation of passengers. The air carried the faint scent of disinfectant and the lingering aroma of coffee from the previous flight. Captain Elias Grayson, weary from long months in the arid heat of Djibouti, exhaled deeply as he settled into seat 2A. This wasn't just a seat, it was a sanctuary, a rare reward for his service. The plush leather cradled his tired frame, a stark contrast to the hard cots and unforgiving terrain he'd become used to. He closed his eyes, savoring the calm before takeoff. Elias was a black man, solidly built, quiet and intense. His presence commanded respect without needing words. His uniform, impeccably pressed, carried the weight of his rank and the silent testimony of his deployments. This seat wasn't gifted to him out of luck. It was earned, a small gesture of gratitude from an airline eager to support the troops. He looked forward to the long journey home, to Sacramento, California. In his mind, he pictured the faces of his children, their excited screams as he walked through the front door. He thought of his wife, Lena, her embrace a healing balm to his worn-down soul. These images were his compass, guiding him through every hardship. He reached into his carry-on and pulled out a worn copy of The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, a faithful travel companion. The book was more than literature. It was a reminder of his heritage, the struggle for equality, and the strength found in knowing one's roots. The boarding process carried on around him, the shuffle of feet, the slam of overhead bins, the murmur of conversations, but Elias remained in his own quiet cocoon. His senses stayed sharp, trained from years of military routine. He'd flown countless times before, but this flight carried a strange undercurrent, a subtle tension he couldn't quite place. Just as he was about to crack open his book, a voice interrupted the silence. "Excuse me, sir," Elias opened. His eyes. Standing in front of him was a flight attendant in her late 30s. Her expression was tight, unpleasant, almost suspicious. Her name tag read, Diane Rathmore. She held a tablet in one hand and an air of disdain in the other. "There must be some mistake," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This seat isn't for you." Her eyes lingered on Elias's uniform, almost as if it were a Halloween costume. "There seems to be a problem with your boarding pass," she added, snatching it from his hand before he could speak. Her cold fingers brushed his with pointed indifference. Elias felt a flicker of frustration but kept his voice calm, years of discipline anchoring him. "I assure you, there's no mistake. This is my assigned seat." Diane pursed her lips as she scanned the pass. "Well, it says here, but that can't be right. Captain Grayson in first class." She scoffed and gestured toward the back of the plane. "You'll need to move, now." Her words hung in the air, laced with something far heavier than simple error. Nearby passengers began to stir. Their conversations slowed. Curious glances shifted toward Elias. Tension thickened like fog in the cabin, his jaw clenched. He had faced this before, the subtle digs, the unspoken rules about who belonged where. But he wasn't going. "Anywhere? Not this time." "I'm afraid I must insist," he said evenly. "This is my assigned seat. I'm not moving. If there's an issue, I suggest you consult your supervisor." Diane's face flushed red. "I'm perfectly capable of handling this myself," she snapped, her voice rising. "I'm just trying to correct a mistake." She looked around, perhaps seeking support, but most passengers avoided her gaze, shrinking in their seats. Then a voice rose from seat 3A. "Ma'am," both Elias and Diane turned. An older man stood in the aisle, broad-shouldered with cropped grey hair and a weathered face. He wore a simple polo shirt, but his posture and tone spoke volumes, unmistakably military. "That's Captain Grayson," the man said, his voice low but firm. "And unless you want to explain to your airline why you just disrespected a soldier who outranks half this plane, I suggest you step back." Diane blinked. Her confidence wavered. I didn't realize. Well, now you..." "Deuce," the man said without flinching. "Apologize to the captain and let him be." Elias looked at the man, offering a respectful nod. Gratitude shone in his eyes. Diane, cheeks burning with embarrassment, muttered, "I need to get my supervisor," and turned sharply, heels clicking. Down the aisle, the man in 3A, a retired Marine by the look of him, returned to his seat with a grunt. "Don't let it get to you, Captain," he muttered. "Some people just can't stand to see a black man in first class." Elias gave him a wry smile. "Thank you, Sergeant Major. I appreciate that." He noted the subtle insignia stitched into the man's shirt. The stripes confirmed his rank. The Sergeant Major was right, of course. This wasn't just about a seat. It was about perception, prejudice, and principle. Moments later, a portly man with a glistening forehead approached. "Captain Grayson?" he asked, voice dripping with forced sincerity. "So sorry for the confusion. Diane is new, still learning the ropes." He extended a voucher, a peace offering wrapped in corporate damage control. "Please accept this on behalf of the airline." Elias accepted it with a nod. "Thank you." He knew the apology was shallow, just enough to avoid a scandal. But he wasn't here to cause one. He just wanted to get home. As the supervisor retreated, Elias let out a quiet sigh and reopened his book. But the words wouldn't settle. His focus was fractured. Something about Diane's reaction had felt off, too personal, too specific. Was it just bias or something deeper? He shook the feeling off, blaming it on fatigue. He popped on his noise-canceling headphones and started a smooth jazz playlist. Soft saxophone notes poured into his ears, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. The tension began to unwind, his eyes fluttering shut. He drifted into a light doze, lulled by the hum of the engines. In his mind, peaceful visions played. His son Matteo practicing layups in the driveway, his daughter Sophia curled up with a book, Lena trimming roses in their backyard garden. These were his anchors, but peace was short-lived. A violent jolt rocked the plane. Elias snapped forward in his seat, the belt biting into his chest. His headphones fell askew, the music cutting out in an instant. Gasps rippled through the cabin. Before he could fully react, another jolt slammed the aircraft, even harder this time. Overhead, bins burst open. Luggage tumbled into the aisles. A laptop hit the floor and shattered. Passengers screamed in panic. Elias's training kicked in. His hands clutched the armrests. He turned to Sergeant Major Huxtable, who was already alert, eyes locked on the wing outside the window. "What the hell is going on?" A woman shrieked nearby. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unexpected turbulence. Please remain calm and keep your seatbelts fastened. The flight crew is monitoring." Another lurch, violent. The plane shuddered as though something invisible had seized it. Lights flickered. Shadows danced across panicked faces. Then, total darkness. A beat of silence. Emergency lighting blinked on. Dull green, eerie and unsettling. Screams swelled through the cabin. People clutched each other. Children cried. The storm inside. The plane matched the chaos outside. Elias's instincts screamed, "This isn't turbulence." He pressed his call button, intending to flag a flight attendant. Before he could, something dropped from the ceiling. A small panel had torn open, wires dangling above him. A tiny object landed squarely in his lap. He picked it up. A thumb drive. Smooth, metallic, and clearly out of place. He stared up at the torn panel. This wasn't random. This was planted. He looked around, his pulse quickening. Passengers were too panicked to notice, but Elias saw the pattern forming. The cabin lights, the turbulence, the drive. His eyes flicked to the display on the seatback in front of him. Normally it showed the flight's path and time to destination. Now it was glitching, symbols warping across the screen, noise at first, but then letters began forming. DIVER, the frowned, another flicker, TULS. His heart thudded. Tulsa? They weren't scheduled to go anywhere near Tulsa. The screen flickered again, urgently now. He tapped Sergeant Major Huxtable on the arm. "Look at this." The older man squinted at the screen. "Divert." "Tulsa?" he read. "What is this, Captain?" "I don't know," Elias said. But I don't think this is just a glitch. I think someone's trying to send us a message. He held up the thumb drive. This dropped from the ceiling panel. I think it's connected. Huxtable's face darkened. Looks like we're in the middle of something big. Elias nodded grimly. Something dangerous. Elias knew time was running out. The turbulence wasn't just weather. It was a cover, or worse, a signal. Clutching the mysterious thumb drive, he scanned the cabin again, his eyes locking briefly with Diane Rathmore's. She was near the galley now, pale and tense, her hands clenched at her sides. The earlier argument seemed miles away, replaced by something deeper, fear. Approaching her cautiously, Elias kept his voice low. "Diane," he said, "this isn't normal turbulence. What's really going on?" Her eyes darted nervously. "You're right," she whispered. "It's worse than you think. The plane's been hacked." Elias blinked, trying to absorb the weight of her words. Hacked? By who? She shook her head. "I don't know their names, but they've taken control. Flight systems, communications, autopilot. Everything. They're rerouting us to Tulsa." Elias narrowed his gaze. Why Tulsa?" Diane hesitated, then answered, "They're after something in the cargo hold. A package. Dangerous, military grade. I don't know what's in it, but it's why they hijacked the plane." Elias felt a chill spread across his spine. He'd heard whispers about biotransport missions before, but never this close to home. "Do you know who's behind it?" he asked. "No," she admitted, her voice cracking, "but they're organized and armed. The pilots are locked in the cockpit, and the hijacker has a weapon." Elias stared at her. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I was scared," she confessed, eyes shimmering. "I didn't know who to trust, but when you stood up earlier, I thought maybe you could stop this." Elias nodded slowly. "We have to try. Do you still have access to the cockpit?" Diane fished out a keycard. "This overrides the lock," she whispered. "But if the hijacker sees us, he'll kill us." Elias's jaw tensed. "Then we'll be quiet." Together they moved through the cabin, dodging debris and wide-eyed passengers. Every step felt heavier as the aftershocks of the turbulence still rattled the plane. When they reached the cockpit door, Elias paused to listen. Inside, tense voices clashed. "We're approaching Tulsa," one snapped. "Prepare for landing." Another argued back. "The runway's not clear, it's too dangerous." "Follow the flight path," the first voice barked. Elias exchanged a glance with Diane. This wasn't just a diversion, it was a forced crash landing. Diane swiped the keycard. The door clicked open. Elias stepped inside, heart pounding, and came face to face with the nightmare. Two terrified pilots, one armed hijacker. A pistol pressed to the captain's temple. The man turned, eyes cold and vicious. "Who the hell are you?" he barked. "Captain Elias Grayson," Elias said calmly. "And you're about to lose." The hijacker sneered. "You think you can stop me? This plane's going down and you're coming with it." The aircraft lurched again, throwing everyone off balance. The hijacker stumbled. Elias lunged. A shot rang out, deafening in the fool. Tight cockpit. The bullet missed, slicing the air inches from Elias's head. They grappled, bodies crashing into the console. Elias took a punch to the ribs, but powered through, adrenaline surging. With a final heave, he wrenched the gun away, sending it skittering across the floor. Pinning the man down, Elias growled, "I don't know what you're after, but I'm not letting anyone die today." Behind him, the pilots re-engaged, hands flying across controls. "Brace for landing," the captain announced over the intercom. "Systems are compromised, autopilots shot." "Then we land manual," Elias said. The plane began its descent, groaning under pressure. The landing was brutal, wheels scraping, metal grinding, passengers screaming. But somehow, the pilots held control. The aircraft skidded, slowed, and finally stopped. Cheers erupted in the cabin, but the danger wasn't over. Elias looked out the window and froze. Armed men in black uniforms waited on the tarmac, rifles raised, masks hiding their faces. "Diane's," voice trembled behind him. "They weren't supposed to be here," she whispered. "Something's wrong." Elias had no doubt. This hijacking was only the beginning. Elias moved cautiously toward the cabin door. Sergeant Major Huxtable at his side, both men tense as they eyed the armed figures outside. The masked men in black uniforms flanked the plane, weapons aimed and ready, their faces unreadable behind. Tactical gear. Elias opened the door slowly, stepping onto the top of the stairway, his posture firm. One of the men stepped forward. "Captain Elias Grayson?" he asked coldly. "Who's asking?" Elias replied. "We're here to secure the package. Stand aside." Elias's eyes narrowed. "What package?" he asked, feigning confusion. The man's tone sharpened. "Don't play dumb, we know you've got it." Elias kept his voice even. "I was stopping a hijacking. You should be thanking me." "We'll see about that," the man growled, signaling his team. Armed personnel stormed the cabin, barking orders. Passengers cried out in fear as the men began ransacking the plane. Elias exchanged a glance with Huxtable. This was a full-blown military-style search. "We need to act," Elias whispered. "But against what? They've got the firepower." Still, he stepped forward, raising his voice. "This is an outrage. You're terrorizing innocent people. Where's your warrant?" The lead agent didn't flinch. "We're operating under national security protocol." "That's convenient," Elias shot back. "But I'm a U.S. Army captain. You don't move an inch without proper authorization." With a sigh, the man produced a digital tablet, flashing a warrant across the screen. It looked official, signed, stamped, and dangerously vague. It claimed a biological threat was on board and authorized immediate seizure. Reluctantly, Elias backed off. "You can search," he said, "but you treat these people with respect or answer to me." The man gave a tight nod, then turned away. As the agents searched, Elias noticed they weren't interested in luggage or passengers. Their focus was pinpointed toward the cargo hold and electronic systems. They weren't just searching, they were recovering something very specific. Diane stood to the side, pale and trembling. Elias approached her. "Do you know who they are?" he asked. She shook her head. "They're not part of the plan. The original plan was quieter. Divert the plane, grab the package, and leave. No one was supposed to get hurt." Elias stiffened. "You helped with this?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was helping stop something worse. The package. It's dangerous. I didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands." "And these are the right hands?" Elias asked bitterly. Before she could respond, a shout came from below. "We found it." Everyone turned. The lead agent rushed to the cargo hold, with Elias and Huxtable close behind. Inside, they opened a secure crate to reveal a sleek silver case. The agent popped it open carefully. Inside was a sealed vial of clear liquid and a small black device. "It's a bioweapon," the agent announced grimly. "A virus, stolen from military control. Someone hijacked this plane to retrieve it." A wave of shock swept the cabin. "Who stole it?" Elias asked. The agent's eyes flicked to Diane, who whispered, "I didn't steal it. I just helped them get close." Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't about a package anymore. It's about lives. And you nearly cost us all." The agent nodded, his tone softer now. "You're right, we moved fast. Maybe too fast." Passengers listened silently, processing the truth. "But we stood together," Elias said. "That's the only reason we're still here." Diane wiped her tears. "I'll cooperate, I swear." The agent sealed the bioweapon container and ordered his team to start decontamination protocols. Flight attendants moved down the aisles with blankets, water, and soft words, doing what they could to patch the torn nerves of the shaken passengers. As the chaos gave way to calm, Elias felt the weight of it all settle in his bones. This flight had been more than a hijacking. It had been a test. Not of strength, but of integrity, unity, and vigilance. And while the battle was over, the truth was clear. What nearly brought the plane down wasn't just the virus, it was the fear, the mistrust, the secrets. But it was courage and conscience that brought it back. As the authorities took Diane into custody and began peeling back the layers of the conspiracy, a heavy calm settled over the plane. The worst was over, but the tension still hung thick in the air, a reminder of how close they had come to disaster. Passengers slowly began to disembark, some moving quickly, eager to leave the nightmare behind. others stopping to nod respectfully, and Elias, silent thanks in their eyes. Near the exit stood Sergeant Major Huxtable, his face tired but proud. "You handled yourself well, Captain," he said, offering a firm handshake. Elias returned the gesture. "Couldn't have done it. Without you." "We all did what had to be done," Huxtable replied. "That's what matters." As the Sergeant Major walked off into the crowd, Elias noticed a young woman lingering nearby. Her eyes were fixed on him, intense but kind, and in her hands she clutched a worn copy of the Souls of Black Folk. "Captain Grayson?" she asked softly. Elias turned, nodding. "I overheard what happened. With the flight attendant, the hijacking. I just wanted to say thank you. For standing up. For staying calm. For doing what's right." She held out the book. "I saw you reading this earlier. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about struggle, about justice. What you did today. It reminded me of that." Elias took the book gently, emotion welling in his chest. "Thank you," he said, voice low. "That means more than you know." He looked around at the other passengers, the crew, the tarmac below. A world still spinning, still standing. Despite everything, they were safe. And in that moment, he understood something deeper. The real enemy hadn't just been the hijacker or the virus. It was the silence that allows injustice to go unchecked. It was the fear that keeps good people from acting, and it was the systems that push the brave to the margins, even when they're willing to lay down their lives. As he stepped off the plane and into the Tulsa sun, Elias inhaled deeply. The sky was clear, the air fresh. Behind him was chaos, but ahead, possibility. The path wouldn't be easy, but he wasn't alone. His family was waiting. And somewhere, out there so were others like him, ready to stand up, speak out, and fight for the light. And as the final passengers filed past, Elias Grayson walked forward with quiet purpose, knowing that courage, empathy, and unity were the real weapons that kept the world from falling apart.